Welcome to Wonderspace. It's great to have you on board. My name is Steve Cole, and over the past 72 episodes, I have been asking the same 6 questions to amazing people from around the world. The questions orbit around wonder and stories of hopefulness, and the setting for each journey is this shared window on the space station, from where we see everything from a different perspective. Before we introduce our guest this week, our friends at asknature.org are going to help us to re-wonder.
Broken reeds and hollow stems are a common sight in the Fen country. But these apparently dead and damaged structures are actually a life-giving part of the community of plants. This is because reeds generally grow not as isolated clumps, but as offshoots of each other, all connected to a sprawling, horizontal underground stem. Further underground, the roots of the reeds are drowning in the waterlogged ground, unable to take in the oxygen they would have access to in air pockets within drier soil. As the wind whistles overhead, it pushes fresh air into those broken stems, and oxygen races through the vast hollow network of plant tissue until it reaches the roots to be taken up into the living cells.
Our orbit this week will take us from Mexico to Boston in America, and to experience these views with us in this ultimate window seat, we welcome Rob Pepper. Rob is an artist, designer, and the current principal of Art Academy in London. In 2003, he joined a small community of artists that wanted to challenge the way art education was being taught. Since then, Rob has helped develop the Art Academy, which today has over 3,500 students and 100 artists regularly employed. As an artist, Rob has had solo exhibitions in cities around the world, and most recently has exhibited in Shanghai. The full-length interview can be heard on the Wonderspace podcast, which can be found on our website and on most podcast platforms. For this video orbit, Rob answers 3 of our 6 questions, and I start by asking, if we could do a fly past on any part of the world that is significant to you, which place, city or country would it be and why?
I think the place that I would look to fly past currently is one of my favourite cities in the world is Shanghai. And I've chosen that because, well, currently it's a bit of a tricky situation, but pre-pandemic and pre-their lockdowns, Shanghai to me has kind of almost revolutionized my world. It's this amazing space it's almost like a parallel universe. You know, we all know a little bit about Shanghai, but not a huge amount. But I love it, and I love the people there, and it's so familiar in many ways, because the old quarter is kind of very European, but it's also kind of otherworldly because of all the new architecture and all the new kind of projects that are going on there. I think also from a business point of view, I've had many opportunities, and they kind of embrace artists in a way that they don't over in the UK so much, or it's kind of, yeah, they properly respect IP and artists' work, and they look to integrate business and art in a way that I've not really seen elsewhere. So I'm choosing Shanghai, and I think it's kind of a funny one, because it's not a kind of romantic. It's kind of romantic in some ways, but it's not like, you know, this place of beauty, or it's just really exciting. I was born in Devon, 1977. Grew up kind of pretty normal household for the first part of my life. One older brother, went to local primary school, then went to schools in Exeter. And then my parents split up when I was about 12, and that was a bit of a car crash in many ways. It wasn't a kind of a happy ending to that period of their life. Ended up kind of having a very different lifestyle after that to kind of what I was doing before that. Having kind of a lot of responsibility, kind of magically had a younger half brother that came and joined us, but then ended up with a single mum who brought us through kind of teenage years with no money. So we kind of grew up kind of quite pretty poor, income support, rural poverty really, but went to good schools. So it's kind of this weird mix. And during that period, I kind of like became very aware of kind of money and how little we had compared to other people would help with the bills from the age of 14. When I came to A-levels, did well in my GCSEs and A-levels, I didn't want to get a job. That was my kind of aim in life. And that's not that I didn't want to work. I work really hard. But I didn't want to be accountable to other people. And so I was kind of an independent thinker. And actually got together with my now wife, Amy, at the end of school and kind of had this beautiful post-school life where we created a business. We used to do Camden Market every week, making things whilst all my mates were doing gap years and stuff. They were working in kind of supermarkets or DIY stores. We set up kind of independently, started to work and started to use what I made to make money. Then went to art school and wanted to be an artist. And kind of my whole life since then has been about how you incorporate sustainable creativity whilst living the best life that you can possibly live. So that's kind of what I've done. So went to art school, went to Australia, had my first solo shows in Australia, did painting, drawing. I did sculpture at university, but actually when I left university, my sculpture teacher said, sculpture is great, but make sure it's flat pack, because you end up being a kind of doing a lot of storage. So started to make paintings, drew every day, did a blog in Australia, doing really well in Australia, and then realised that actually I wanted to come back to London. So we moved back to London, did a residency at the Florence Trust in Highbury. That was like the landing spot. And then one day I had near the end, it was a 1-year program. At the end of that, got an email saying, we're looking for tutors at this place called the Art Academy. And so I didn't do what I was taught to do, which is like send a CV, send a covering letter. I was just like, here's my website. If you're interested, give me a call. And so the then principal gave me a call within about 20 minutes. We met the next day and they offered me a job, which was, here's a studio. In return for your studio, you've got to do a bit of teaching. So it was about 2004. And through that amazing place, I have became a senior member of the management team. I became vice principal in 2010 and then became principal in 2017. Alongside that, always running my art practice. So the Art Academy is a space of artists who are teaching rather than teachers that know a bit about art. So we all have our own careers, we all have our own kind of practice, and we really reflect those practices in the teaching that we do. And so that's kind of grown. It's gone from a place of 30 odd students when I arrived to currently we do an academic. We have a BA that's been validated by the Open University that we've written, and we have about 3,500 students. So at the moment, the exciting thing with the Academy is that we're growing, even though the pandemic has been tough. We've survived it. We're in Zone 1, Central London, and the big news is that we are moving buildings next to Tate Modern. So beginning of 2023, we will have a kind of state-of-the-art, artist-led art school. And although we want to get bigger, we want to kind of remain small. And it's an amazing space, amazing opportunity. And we want to be the best art school that people can come to. And that's because we believe that artists should spend more time with artists. So you're in a class one-on-one. And yeah, it's an amazing life that I have. And kind of, it's all kind of grounded in that kind of practicality of creativity and trying to find a way of being sustainable, which is not necessarily about having lots and lots of success, but it's about how can I pay the rent? How can I pay my mortgage? How can I bring up kids whilst being an artist? And if I can do that, then I'm being successful. I'm going to talk about two things of hopefulness at the moment that are kind of both small and big, or both of them really. So the first one is the amount of families that are currently sponsoring Ukrainian refugees. We're helping, we haven't got the space to host a family ourselves, but we're helping a family in the village, and kind of watching that journey of people who are opening up their homes, opening up their lives, trying to help, but also knowing that it's complex, that this family that are here have got a loved one or loved ones still abroad fighting in all sorts of trouble, and that they're grateful to be here, but they're also angry that they're here because they want to go home, right? So this is, I think it's a really complex situation, that is not going to get easier for people. And I think that's a journey that so many families and households are going to go on through the next few months. So I think it's an amazing aspect of what they're doing, but I think we all need to be hopeful for the fact that the love that people are showing for that is a wonderful thing, but having patience too, because it's going to be complex. And the other one is a friend of mine who I went to school with, actually, who are a band who have made the decision that a few years ago that they're not going to tour until they've worked out how to do that sustainably. So Coldplay they made that statement, probably as a statement that Chris made kind of irrationally in one interview, but they've then gone through this period of they bring so much joy and hope when they have their shows, and it's such a kind of communal experience. But they decided that we're going to do it from an environmental standpoint, and they've really stood by that and have been kind of world leaders within the entertainment industry, I think, in going, this is what we do. We know it's not needed. A big concert in some ways is not needed, but actually we really desperately need those moments of collective togetherness. But they're also it has a big impact. So what can we do about it? And I think if you go to their website for their new tour and look at what they've done environmentally with the solar and the batteries, and thinking locally as well as globally, working with local partners as well as much as possible. They need to move around, so looking at which fuel they use, and just doing a real massive audit on their footprint when they do these big events. They're lucky in that they have a lot of cash flow to be able to do that, but I think lots of businesses can take that as a lead. So I think that's kind of a much bigger scale thing within the arts, particularly, of how do we renegotiate our footprint and what we do and our impact on the environment. So those are my two stories of hopefulness.
To find out more, go to robpepper.co.uk and artacademy.org.uk. To engage with the previous 72 Wonderspace episodes, go to our website ourwonder.space. I want to thank Rob for joining us on Wonderspace, and I hope you can join us next week for more wonders and stories of hopefulness.